All right, everyone. Hello and welcome in. Today is the day that we go over your comments, my reactions. This is our video, the collaboration project between myself and you, the audience, following the post-game video that we uploaded and discussed yesterday, following the final preseason game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, the final preseason game for the Vikings anyway. There's still a couple going on right now, as a matter of fact, as I record this. But either way, I asked you to leave comments yesterday on the video. You did just that. I have selected about 10 or 11 comments here. We're going to quickly go through them and discuss what you have to say, what your feelings are, and your thoughts and opinions about the Minnesota Vikings following the conclusion of the preseason as we look forward in about a week and a half to week one, our first matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. So it's late at night. It is about 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I would like to go to bed, so we're going to try to do this very quickly. If I didn't feature you this week, or if you're new around here, don't worry. I'm going to try to get everybody in as much as I can. There will be some repeat people. It just really depends on if I've used your comment before, how good is it, how much can I get out of it, things like that. So if you don't see yourself in this video, don't panic. I'm still reading everybody's comments, and I'm going to try to circle back to some people that might have gone in the first video and they haven't seen themselves in a while. So I'm not trying to play favorites or anything. I'm trying to get as many people involved as I can so we can grow the community and all talk about Vikings football, which is what we're here to do. So without further ado, this is the day after Kansas City. Your comments, my reactions, our video. The first comment comes from Cal Lucas, and it's kind of a 2-for-1 here. RIP Irv Smith, can we see a possible trade for Zach Ertz? So the news of the day, of course, other than Harrison Smith re-signing with the Minnesota Vikings for 4 years and a whole lot of money, which is great. Harrison Smith is my favorite player on defense. The Irv Smith situation is that he has a meniscus problem and he is going to need surgery. How long the recovery time is going to depend on what kind of procedure he has. And right now it is either he is looking at missing the first half of the season, like 2 to 5 weeks, or he could be out for the entire season with something that requires 6 to 8 months to recover from. So we're crossing our fingers and hoping for the first one, because damn, it would be a tough, brutal loss to not have Irv Smith Jr. this season, who is, on deck for a breakout season, because he's looked great the entire preseason, training camp, everything. He's the real deal. He could be a breakout star this year, but right now that's on hold. So it's time for some speculation. If the latter scenario is the one that occurs and we enter nightmare world where Irv Smith is no longer available for the entire season, that's a big hole to fill, because I think, Irv Smith really kind of is, despite him being tight end 1 on this team, I think he is wide receiver 3 for the most part. I think we could argue that with some legitimacy. So we would need to get somebody in here to fill those shoes, because Tyler Conklin is, sort of been, they've been holding him out in a conservative manner because of a hamstring injury, apparently. Brandon Dillon is not it, and Zach Davidson is not ready. So we need some tight end help in a big way if Irv Smith misses 6 to 8 months. So just to sort of give you an idea, the Zach Ertz trade, no thanks. I'm not interested in sacrificing draft capital for a 1-year rental of Zach Ertz, who is clearly past his prime. Notable free agent tight ends are Trey Burton, Tyler Eifert, Dwayne Allen, Charles Clay, Virgil Green, Lance Kendricks, and Delaney Walker. So not a lot to pick from. I think if I had to go with one of these guys, I would probably pick Trey Burton or Delaney Walker. Trey Burton probably has the most left in the tank out of everyone. Tyler Eifert is an injury concern. Charles Clay, I want nothing to do with. I watched him struggle during his final days in Buffalo, and Josh Allen, no thanks whatsoever. I think there was even one of those clips where he dropped a pass where he was wide open and hit him in the chest, and yeah, so no thanks in that regard. So the other possibility I think we could be looking at is maybe a trade for David Njoku from the Cleveland Browns, because he has been somebody that has been sort of demanding and then not demanding a trade for the better part of this entire calendar year. And David Njoku would be an interesting player to sort of bring on board with this team. I think he would fit right in with what they want to do. Next comment comes from Electric89. Could have got Minshew for a 6th round pick. This GM is way too obsessed with late round picks, and they're of course talking about Rick Spielman. Talk about being asleep at the wheel when you know you need a backup quarterback, and clearly I think Gardner Minshew was going to be available because Trevor Lawrence is the man in Jacksonville. He was always going to be. That was a foregone conclusion. You absolutely could have got Gardner Minshew for a 6th round pick, and even make it a conditional if you wanted to, but Very disappointed to see that possibility or option of bringing him in was wiped off the table before we even knew it. So we definitely need a quarterback for the backup job, and it could have been this one, and it's unfortunate that it's not going to be. Next comment comes from Mr. Noble Man of Love. That's an interesting username. Asking a lot for this many retreads to rebound simultaneously. Strong start, painful finish, or on and off all season? Yes, I kind of, this raises an interesting point, and one that I've kind of been dancing around for the better part of the offseason. We have Patrick Peterson, who's had a couple of down years. Bashad Breeland comes over. Michael Pierce comes back out of opting out last season. Not that he's a retread, but Everson Griffin, I think, falls more into that category that you're speaking of. It's a lot of what I like to refer to sometimes as spare parts. You go out and you find recycled materials, and one man's junk is another man's treasure. And it's kind of what seems like what they're trying to do is rebuild, that some semblance of that defense that they had in 2017, at least based on the personnel. And, maybe that's a strategy that might work, but it is tough to believe that everybody that has had an up and down season or has, had a weird year off or something like that is all going to collectively come together and have Pro Bowl years. I don't really think that that's going to happen. I could be wrong, but it would be tough to bet on. Next comment comes from Charles McNeff. The best the Vikings are doing is 12-5 this year. If we are lucky, we need a central leader. We don't have that now. I would argue that we don't have that now in a sense that we, the fans, are not aware of it. But I think Patrick Peterson is going to become a vocal leader in this locker room, at least on the defensive side. The offensive side, I don't know if there's a vocal leader. Dalvin Cook's not really that vocal. Adam Thielen kind of is, maybe. Nobody on the offensive line, I think, really. Brian O'Neill, maybe. But yeah, we definitely don't have like a J.J. Watt type of personality or something like that, and we could benefit from that. But from what I've seen and heard from directly and indirectly about Patrick Peterson, I think he could be the guy that you're looking for. Next comment comes from Brett Zeismer. Kubiak calling plays from the booth rather than the field seems to be the better option. This is something that we talked about in the post-game video following the Kansas City preseason game, where this was the game that they decided that Clint Kubiak was going to call plays from the booth. He had previously been calling plays in the first two games on the field. I think it makes more sense to play call from the booth. You get, the overhead visual. Having been somebody that has been in a press box at Ohio State University, I was down there a couple of years to see the Youngstown State Penguins take on Ohio State in their regular season openers. It's just I take that back. I was there once on the field as a photographer, and I was once in the press box as an observer. And the press box experience it's phenomenal for the simple reason that you can see everything develop in real time, right? Because it's not standing on the sideline trying to figure out what's happening on the other end or what's coming your way. You have the entire visual, looking down upon it. So I think it's the better choice in the long run. Next comment comes from Too Evil to Hope. What record do you expect at the bye week? So this is an interesting comment because I pulled up the schedule and I was like, I'm not too familiar with who all we play before the bye. Let's check it out. So we have the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Browns, Lions, Panthers, and then the bye week is week 7. If everything goes right, I think best case scenario is we win against the Bengals, Cardinals, Browns, Lions, Panthers, and our only loss will be to the Seahawks. So I'm predicting if everything goes right, and that's a big if, I predict 5-1 is the best case scenario for this team for the first half of the season by the bye week. Worst case scenario, I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is just within the realm of possibility. Worst case scenario would be a loss to the Cardinals, Seahawks, Browns, and Panthers could be a trap game on the road. Our wins would be the Lions and the Bengals. 2-5 heading into the bye week. That would be worst case scenario. So I think that those are the two polar opposites that we can expect. To sort of bridge off of this question, I think the first half of the season needs to be 5-1 at worst. Because have you seen the schedule after that? Oh, damn. We've got the Rams, we've got the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Steelers, we've got the Packers twice. It's murder's row of potential playoff teams. And if we don't have our shit together by the bye week this time, like we didn't last year, put a fork in us, we're done. Moving on to the next question from Always Great USA. Do you believe that Zimmer and Kirk ultimately have what it takes to win a Super Bowl? I thought about this as I was preparing for this video. This is kind of a tough question to answer because I do and I don't. I believe that Mike Zimmer does have ultimately what it takes to win a Super Bowl. I really do. I think that he's just run into some of the worst luck imaginable for a head coach, right? I mean, you get the Blair Walsh missed field goal. You get Adrian Peterson suspension. Teddy Bridgewater blows out his knee in the most freak accident imaginable. It was on a practice field with no contact. The eye surgery, I think COVID affected everyone, but still, it's like, what else can go wrong for this guy, right? I think he has what it takes. I think the defense has been phenomenal since he's been here. He's really revamped the culture of this team. It would suck to see him go, but at the same time, I've also advocated that I'm ready for change. But, to answer your question, Mike Zimmer, yes, ultimately does have what it takes to bring this team to a Super Bowl. He's just run into some bad luck. Kirk Cousins, I don't think he has what it takes to win the Super Bowl, but I think he has what it takes to go along for the ride, if I could put it that way. I don't think that he's going to be the guy that steps up, wins an MVP in the Super Bowl, wills them to playoff wins. He's like, hey, get in my backpack, let's go, I'm going to carry you to victory. I don't think he's that type of quarterback, and we haven't seen it. Every time that they get booted from the playoffs, at least, the couple times that he's been here. Actually, we've only been in the playoffs once since he's been here. That doesn't feel too good. Anyway, I think Mike Zimmer does, Kirk does not. That's the short answer. Next comment comes from Jakes199456. This has the potential to be a train wreck of a season or the best season in history. Something like a 3-14 or 14-3 type of season with no in between. I'm going to disagree with you. I think that the floor that you have predicted is correct. It could be a train wreck of a season, but I don't think that this roster is anywhere near 14 wins. I really don't, because the depth is just not there, and we're learning that today with Irv Smith's injury. Because what's the talk around Vikings social media is like, we got to go find a tight end because what we have behind him isn't good enough. So that's where I'm at. I don't think that this is a 14-win roster. I don't think that this is a 12-win roster. I think best case scenario for this team is 10 or 11 wins. And I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that you are right and that we can manage 14. But looking at the schedule, looking at the talent, knowing that the regular season is a battle of attrition that we have been losing for the better part of the offseason with, an injury here, a bruised up guy there. This guy misses a couple practices because he's dealing with something. We don't even know what the extent of Anthony Barr's injury is yet. So we're already losing the battle of attrition. I don't think this is a 14-win team. I think this is at least a typical mediocre 8-8 style of Vikings football season, even though 8-8 is no longer achievable because of the new one extra game. So I think 11 is the best that you can hope for. And then we're probably going to be on the bubble in terms of playoff teams at the end of the season. Next comment comes from Blackjacks. They say the worst Vikings preseason I can remember. Very lackluster. I wish we could have seen something positive to give us some optimism. And this basically says what I've been saying over the course of the past 3 weeks in every video that I've made about preseason games. And this sums it up very nicely in a couple sentences. It wasn't I'm not worried about wins and losses. Anybody that goes on Twitter and says, oh, the Vikings were 0-3, this means we're going 0-17. Shut up. That is the dumbest joke that it appears that all of you only know how to recycle. The thing about the preseason isn't the wins and losses, and it isn't about, statistically performing like a Patrick Mahomes. It's about showing that you are competent enough that if you are asked to step in a role during the regular season, that you will be able to perform. And we didn't see anything like that from this team that could give us the confidence in backup players participating in the season, which they're going to. Backup is kind of a label that we need to get around because they're members of the football team. They're there for a reason. They're there to contribute. And if they have to, I'm concerned. So that's where I'm at with that. Next comment comes from Jonathan Fisher. Nothing I saw in the preseason has me betting money on the Vikings at Cincinnati. They look unorganized and they're all on different pages. So, number one, you're right. Don't bet money on the Vikings to win week 1 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Not because I don't think they can, because that's a fool's errand. Number 2, The Vikings should absolutely win the season opener against the Cincinnati Bengals on the road because Zach Taylor is not a good football coach, and the Cincinnati Bengals are not a good football team. We need to win games against teams that we should win, against teams that we should beat. If we lose to the Bengals or they give us a tough matchup, I'm going to press the panic button probably, because it's kind of like what I talked about last year. We had that stretch of games where everybody was like, okay, we're back in it. We beat the Packers. We beat the Bears. We've got the Cowboys, the Jaguars, and the Panthers all lined up. And last year, those teams were abysmal. Turned out to be not the case because the Cowboys ended up beating us. And then the Jaguars and Panthers games both came down to the wire and were very sloppy. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in the first week of the regular season against the Bengals. Are we going to establish dominance, or are we going to kind of just go through the motions? And that's going to tell a lot about what this team is made of, despite it only being week 1 and despite it being against the Bengals, a team that just had the first overall pick 2 years ago. Last comment for the night comes from Frederico. Love the name. It seems like here we go again. Kubiak is not ready to call at this level. So let's run. Let's be conservative. Let's hope the defense makes the difference. And it does feel that way. It really does feel like, despite having a lot of new names and faces on this team, that really nothing has changed. It feels like we're just going through the motions and it's the same team every year. Where, statistically last year we had a great offense and it ranked really high in a lot of categories and it put points on the board, great seasons from Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, all those type of things. But here's the thing. The offense last year did a lot of things where it's going to be hard to reproduce. Number one is being that successful. They are a prime candidate to regress. Number 2 is being healthy, because for the most part, the offense was very healthy last year in terms of players not missing games. Already, we are seeing that reversed in real time because Adam Thielen's been banged up. Justin Jefferson had the shoulder scare. Christian Darrisaw can't get on the field. We had the Kenny Nwangu injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out. It's just one thing after another. So, as I said, battle of attrition, already losing it. As far as everything else goes, yeah, the play calling doesn't inspire confidence that things are going to get better. It's the same, song and dance that we've seen during the regular season. Handoffs on 2nd and 10, handoffs on 3rd and 14. We're throwing checkdowns way too frequently to fullbacks and backup fullbacks. Just things of that nature. Things that have become sort of, part of just Vikings football. Like, that's just what Vikings football is. It's run the ball a whole bunch, check down to the flats, and throw down the field a few times, something like that, and then hope the defense is good enough to make up for everything else that you're weak at. But I digress. So those are your comments, your thoughts, my reactions, our video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to leave a comment. We will continue to discuss the discussion in the comments below on this video and throughout the week as we go through and head towards the first real official game. Real games are finally here. Real games are finally going to count. And to all the naysayers out there that wanted to give us crap because we were concerned, we were worried based on what we saw in the preseason, listen, I hope you're right. I hope that the preseason doesn't matter and that we made too big of a deal of it and that this team is going to go places and it's going to be highly successful, because at the end of the day, that's what I want. I don't care about being right or wrong. I just give my honest opinion based on what I see happen in real time. And if it ends up not being the case and we didn't need to worry about this preseason and what we saw at all, that's fine. I can make peace with that. I just want this team to win, and I think everybody else does too. And until they start doing that, I think it's healthy for us to have a critical, a critical eye and not just, drink the Kool-Aid, if I could, put it that way. So that's enough talking out for me. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.